Good morning. I'm Les Beich. I have been an NNPHI groupie for the last 11 open forums. I have a day job. I work at Florida State University. I didn't nominate Sarah, but I would have. I also do an occasional bit of research, and one of the things that a group of colleagues and I learned about accreditation is that states, and by the way, there are 29 states now who are in some stage of the accreditation process through the Public Health Accreditation Board. When states are in the mix for accreditation, locals are far more likely to also be engaged in accreditation readiness activities. In fact, depending on the size of the health department, they are anywhere from 2 to 8 times more likely. So the two speakers you will hear from this morning, you will understand very well that moderator, incentivizer, champion role that state health departments, state health officials can play in making accreditation a goal and a destination that's achievable. So let me say it's a privilege and a pleasure to moderate this session featuring two very committed champions at the state level who have been public health leaders for many years. I'm also pleased to be able to say both are members of the Public Health Accreditation Board of Directors, and I'm pleased to be able to also be one of those folks. Both are going to tell you about the unique journeys of their states and the powerful drivers that accreditation has proven to be in bringing about change. And by change, I mean positive, transformational change. Whitney suggested that we're going to have follow-up digging deeper with Drs. Chapman and Klein, and so I would also urge you to grab a piece of paper and write down the questions that you would like to share with them during that concurrent session. Let me introduce Dr. Chapman. I have been trying to get Dr. Chapman to come join us for some time, and so it's really exciting that he's made time in his schedule to be here today. He's had a very multifaceted career in public health, academia, and medicine. Let me just tell you a little bit about it. He was a medical school academician at University of California, Davis, where he was on the faculty of the Department of Family Medicine there. And he focused a lot on quality improvement in medical practice, which you can see may have translated very nicely. He's been a local health official. He's worked at the State Department of Health. He has run a Medi-Cal state health plan from a medical perspective, but you may know him best as state health official in California. So Ron's been a very strong champion for FAB since its inception, and in fact, he was a speaker when FAB officially launched back in 2011 its accreditation process. But to fully appreciate the depth of his commitment, you have to know that Dr. Chapman has been a site visitor while a sitting state health official. Now that's a delicate balancing act given his many responsibilities. Dr. Chapman, if I could please call you to the podium.
Good morning. Thank you, Les. Thank you for your persistence in getting me to this conference. So, let's see here. Whoops. Should I, where's Whitney? Keep going. There I am. Excellent. One more. So, as this slide says, I am the past director and state health officer. I was in the position almost 4 years and left about 6 weeks ago. And I was sitting here thinking something feels really strange giving this presentation. And what it is that for the first time in over 20 years, I'm giving a public presentation not as a government employee. So, I can say whatever I want. Isn't that nice? And in the tradition of the prior speakers calling people out, I'm going to ask if Emily is here from Yolo County, California. Is she here? Oh, there she is. Hi. Thanks for standing up. My home county in California, local health department, thank you for being here. That's reassuring to know that my local health department is working on quality improvement. So I'm just incredibly honored and privileged to be here to share with you the journey to accreditation of the California Department of Public Health. And it was quite a journey. I want to tell you first that I am a huge accreditation fan. I would call myself an accreditation nerd. And this, is that Kay laughing back there? And it started early on. I was a local health officer and director of public health from 2004 to 2010. And of course, accreditation started picking up speed during that time. And I kept asking from this small county in California, how can I get involved? I want to be involved. So I kept raising my hand. And I was picked to be a site visitor for the first beta test site in Deschutes County, Oregon. So FAB did 30 of those. And I was incredibly honored to have been trained as a site visitor and gone to that first beta test site visit. And then, of course, I had to be retrained several years later because it was official at that point. And in 2014, I was the chair of a site visit team for a large health department. I don't know if I'm still not allowed to say where I went, but I was the chair and also was serving as the state health officer and director of public health in California. So I have a little bit of experience with this. And when the governor appointed me in June of 2011, my interviews, I talked a lot about public health accreditation. Don't know if that's what got me the job. Probably unlikely because everybody I talked to in California at those high levels knew nothing about public health accreditation, but by the time I was done with them, they knew a lot. And so I started the job in June 2011. We had a vacancy rate of nearly 25%. In a department with 4,000 positions and a budget of $3.5 billion. We had furloughs, we had a hiring freeze. The furloughs equated to a 15% pay cut for the employees. People remember this, the depths of the recession. So needless to say, the morale in the department was not very high. And to top it off, there had been released what was called an independent review of the California Department of Public Health. It was published the day that it was announced that I was becoming the director. Now, I knew this was going to happen. It was all planned that way. Here comes Chapman to save the day, right? Here's this horrible 22-page scathing report on what I thought was one of the best health departments in the country. So I walked on the job that first week, first month, talking about accreditation, and people thought I was crazy. What does that have to do with our miserable lives in public health during the depths of recession? I received several, probably a half dozen letters from the highest ranking federal officials you can imagine. And I'll never forget those letters. I still have copies. I should frame them. The first paragraph said, "Congratulations, welcome, you're the new director and state health officer." Second paragraph said, "If you don't get your act together, we're pulling tens of millions of dollars. Welcome to the job." So I knew we had a lot of work ahead, and I knew that accreditation was the way to do it. So accreditation to me equals leadership, vision, and hard work. And I once had a boss who told me that it wasn't about leadership, it was just about solving the problems. But I have seen many a QI projects go awry without leadership. If you don't have leadership in place, functional leadership in place, who is committed to accreditation and quality improvement, it's just not going to happen. So the first thing we did in our department, the first 6 months, focus on leadership development. And that is about bringing in experts, it's about building a functional team, and it's about getting the right people on the bus. It's about identifying rising stars in the department and I did not do that. Maybe I did it mentally, but it's about identifying rising stars and bringing them up in the department. It's about having a vision for the future. We were mired in this horrible state in the depths of recession and all of those implications, but I had a vision of where we could go. Hello? I did not hit that switch.
We lost power up here. We lost power up here.
Oh, that's all right. No worries. So I created a vision. You know, I had a mentor once who drew a diagram for me about leadership, and he said, here's what it means to create a vision. And he drew on a piece of paper a sun. And he said, we're over here, and the sun's over here. Your job as a leader is to describe that distant sun and how bright and shiny and wonderful that sun is, and then create the stepping stones that will get you there. Accreditation has all of those stepping stones. And then it's about hard work. And we all know what hard work is about. People in public health are the hardest working people I have ever seen in my career. Okay. And part of my vision was to build an Office of Quality, Performance, and Accreditation. And we were extremely honored, thank you, to have received a NIFI, a National Public Health Improvement Grant. And so I used those dollars to help build the new Office of Quality, Performance, and Accreditation. I created a new deputy director position to lead that office and report to me. Lorianne DiMartini is the deputy director of that office, and I cannot express enough the importance of getting the right people in those positions. You all know who those people are. The leadership of the department has to have the vision and the understanding of what it takes to lead an office like that and lead an accreditation effort. In the beginning of my job, I went around and started planting lots of seeds. At the time, I talked about Johnny Appleseed. Anybody know Johnny Appleseed's real last name? Chapman. Very good. People knew that? Wow. That was good. Bonus points over there. And so I'd be talking to people about quality improvement. I'd be talking to them about accreditation very gently because I understood the position we were in. And then APHA had a meeting in San Francisco, their national meeting, and Lorianne and I went to the meeting, and she will never let me forget how at that meeting, at the end of a day, we were walking outside of the Marriott Hotel across the street, and as we were crossing the street, I said, it's time to start accreditation. And her jaw dropped. She was several months on the job. She was just putting her office together, and she, again, thought I was crazy. But I knew it was exactly what the department needed. Accreditation is all about quality improvement. I have worked in QI for over 2 decades. I have seen huge successes in public health and in medical care. I once had a boss when I was hired new on the job who, day one, told me I needed to reorg the department. That was my first assignment. And when I asked him why, what is that going to improve, he could not answer the question. I ended up not needing to reorg that department because I implemented quality improvement processes that solved the problems. When I started at the California Department of Public Health, one of my first meetings was with the Office of Legal Services. I met with 36 attorneys. And I was planting my seeds. And I said, you know, we're going to be doing this and that, and it's going to be great. And as you can tell, I'm a cheerleader. And we're going to do quality improvement. And this attorney in the back of the room raised her hand. She stood up, veteran attorney of 30 years in the department, said, QI sucks. She said, we have tried that so many times in this department, and she went on, process reengineering, TQM, blah, blah, blah. She said, every single one failed. Okay, that was very helpful. One of the first QI projects we did was around contracting. The department had over 3,000 contracts, and part of the process was for a contract to actually leave the state, it had to go through Department of General Services for review. 70% of contracts that went to DGS were bounced back as unacceptable. We implemented a full-scale QI project, and within 6 months, the rejection rate at DGS was 0.001%. And it's been that way ever since. The department's now held as a model for contracting in California state government. It took us 6 months to do that. At the end of 6 months, I gave a presentation with the QI team to our executive team, 40 people, on the success and how this works. And guess who was there? The seasoned veteran attorney. And halfway through the presentation, her hand shoots up again. From the back of the room, I went, oh no, we are so doomed. She stands up and she says, Dr. Chapman, she said, now I get it. She said, QI is just about solving problems, identifying problems, a strategy how to get there, and how to fix the problem. I said, yep, that's it, not rocket science. And I had her on my team, and she has been one of the biggest advocates for QI and accreditation in the department. We identified a number of other areas, such as workforce development. We had a workforce development plan. It was so outdated and inappropriate for the times, it was incredible. RWJ gave us a grant to help us work on that. By the time we were finished with our accreditation process, the executive team was so bought into accreditation and QI that we started shifting block grant dollars to our Office of Quality, Performance, and Accreditation to support the efforts across the department. As part of the accreditation process, and I'll go into a lot more detail on this in the breakout session, but we had a number of teams, we had hundreds of people involved, literally. It was an unbelievable experience for people in the department to sit on teams with colleagues who they had never met, with programs who they knew nothing about. And suddenly, we were building bridges within our own department that had never existed before. Unbelievably powerful experience. We also, through the accreditation process, and how many people are here in health departments who are already accredited? Oh, that's great. Excellent. Congratulations. How many folks are at the point where you already have a site visit scheduled? Handful. I don't know if I'm coming out to see you, but maybe. Just kidding. So we engaged our external partners and stakeholders a lot in the process. I'll never forget during the site visit, the hour that was spent with the site visitors and our partners and stakeholders, and how excited our partners were to be a part of that process. And through the process, we not only strengthen local health departments, but we strengthen a number of nonprofit organizations in the state and strengthen our relationships with them. Just one very small example, we have over 100 tribes in California. They play a really, really important role caring for people in California. And I'll never forget a meeting where we were at, and I went to the vast majority of our accreditation readiness team meetings, our quality performance committee meetings. I sat on several domain teams, and I went to at least 90% of those meetings. And there was one meeting in particular where we were looking at a domain and some measures, and it was talking about tribal involvement. And there was a program there that said, you know, we are in the middle of a strategic planning process for our program, and we did not think about inviting the tribes. We're going to do that right now. And they got the tribes involved, engaged, and it completely changed the strategic planning process for that program. That's just a small example. We've had high-level, solid relationships in the department with the tribes and their representative state organizations, but to have a program be engaged in that level of detail was fantastic. It really strengthened the relationships internally, externally. Lorianne DiMartini talked a lot about silo busting and bridge building. Accreditation does that. When I first started going around California after I was initially trained as a site visitor and giving presentations on accreditation to glossy-eyed public health audiences in California who didn't understand what it meant, I got a lot of questions about this whole documentation thing. And folks saying, this just sounds like an exercise in collecting documents. As a site visitor, I rely a lot on the documents. But as a department that's seeking accreditation, the documents are not what it's about. It is about being absolutely honest about the weaknesses, the gaps, and the problems in the department. That takes guts. I initially had staff who were very worried about publicly sharing those blemishes in a culture where, for the most part, those were encouraged to be hidden. And I said, no. This is a legitimate national process based on national standards created by our peers. We need to hold ourselves up to those standards. This is the time to open up the closets, the doors, the skeletons, get it all out so that we could improve in a time that was very challenging. And we did that. And it was an amazing experience to go through for 18 months. And what it really came down to for me, as a leader of a department of public health, one of the largest in the country, it was all about the people. It's not about the documents. It's not so much about the domains and the standards and measures. It really is about the people. We in public health are so proud of our work. And, and we often feel like the Rodney Dangerfields, right? But this is a process that you can use to celebrate the great work. And it's not just about the people in the department and the people I mentioned outside the department, but it's about the people who we serve. Ultimately, it's about improving the quality of the services to the people in our jurisdictions. For me, it was about 38 million people. And I'm just incredibly proud of the work that was accomplished through accreditation. It doesn't stop with receiving the plaque. And that's why I call it a journey, because it's an adventure that keeps on giving. It's an adventure that never ends. And so people ask me along the way, well, how are we going to keep this sustainable? And what's going to keep it from all backtracking once you've left? Because that happens a lot with the revolving door of appointed leadership. And I am feeling very reassured because accreditation changed the culture of our department in a way that is permanent, in a way that is long-lasting. And here's a picture of some of the people. You can see the saying, busting silos and building bridges. This is our Office of Quality, Performance, and Accreditation team. You can see all the notebooks that were used for the accreditation process, all of the documents. And there's quite a few there. I think in the end, we had something like almost 20,000 pages in documents. Large department, a lot of work going on there. I felt sorry for the site visitors, but they seemed to handle it well. And the ultimate review from the site visitor team, when they shared their review, of the 105 measures, we received the highest drumming rate of, so you know the highest rating you can get is fully demonstrated. 92% of the measures we got fully demonstrated, which we were incredibly thrilled about. And I'm going to read to you the overall impression from our site visit report. The California Department of Public Health demonstrates exemplary performance across the entire framework of FAB standards. As cited throughout the report, many of the department's programs and strategies serve as national models. Department leaders have created a culture of quality, professionalism, and service that is visible throughout the agency. With a high level of enthusiasm and motivation noted among all staff members, the department is poised to achieve its vision of California as the healthiest state in the nation. I was pretty happy about that. And so we were officially accredited in December 2014, just a couple months ago. So this is all very fresh for the Department of Public Health. But that impression that I read to you is a far cry from the independent review of the California Department of Public Health in June 2011. And it really was the accreditation process that allowed us, that guided us, that gave us the framework to get there. And of course, the leadership, the vision, and the hard work of the staff in the department, Lori-Ann DiMartini and her team, and lots of our supporters in the local health departments and nonprofits throughout California. So here is my email and phone number. If you have any questions, I look forward to seeing some of you at the breakout session where I'll be doing a dog and pony show with Terry Klein. And I think we might have a few more minutes for
I think we should.
question. Go ahead.
Can I ask you one?
Oh,
Get it squeaked up?
okay.
Well, first of all, can there be any question of what Dr. Chapman's legacy in California is going to be? So, thank you. I think that was tremendous. So maybe just to kick us off, and I think we've got time for just a couple questions. You know, you talked about your lawyer who raised her hand. That would have been me probably at some point in my life. But how did you win over others skeptics about, you know, you've created the sun as your vision. You know, how did you get 4,000 or maybe 3,000? There was a gap in. How did you get the rest of them there?
Sure. So in any organization, you're going to have the naysayers. And to be perfectly honest, I coached the Office of Quality Performance and Accreditation and others in the following manner. Ignore those people. I mean, that's what I've learned in my career. You cannot waste your time and energy on those people. I believe in the theories of diffusion of innovation. You will always have early adopters. Focus on those people. Encourage them, support them, give them everything they need. I can tell you endless QI projects I've done that had tons of naysayers who by the end of the first year were begging to jump on board because of the success of those early adopters and how you promote them, promote the work, and create an environment where if you're not involved, you're out of luck. I mean, you create an environment where those naysayers actually end up wanting to be a part of the process. That's my philosophy.